Do you guys ever get tired of so many aspects of our culture seeming very fake?
Every day.
Oh, let's talk about that.
This is the Unexpected Podcast.
Lee,
Amy.
we didn't plan this, but we're both wearing snapback caps that are green in the front.
The only difference is mine says hillbilly.
Right. And mine says Sundrop.
Sophisticated hillbilly.
Oh, right.
Sundrop.
Sophisticated hillbilly. Sundrop. Who out there has ever had a can or bottle, I suppose, of Sundrop?
We are not sponsored by Sundrop.
No, we're not.
But if Sundrop wants to sponsor us, we will take sponsorship.
We'll take it. We'll take it. I mean, as long as there's no crazy strings attached. This was your favorite drink when you were growing up.
It was.
Right.
I grew up, going between Central City, Kentucky and Mayfield, Kentucky. And that was a big deal down in Mayfield, Sundrop. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I remember my sister liked it, but I don't think I ever really drank it. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the fakeness, which is kind of an awkward word. Fakeness.
Fake.
Fakery.
Fakery.
Well, let me tell you what prompted the idea of this. And for those of you out there who have not seen our podcast before and you don't know the premise, basically Lee doesn't know what the topic is from week to week. And so he's just hearing about this for the first time.
Shooting from the hip.
Shooting from the hip. Well, the thing that prompted this was I saw this picture, and it happens to be a food item from Publix, but it could have been from any grocery store, grocery outlet. All those stores have their own brand of different foods. And so
Usually made by the same company.
Yeah, very often. Yeah. But this struck me as so funny because it's a close-up of the label, and at the top in kind of pretty big gold fonts, it says butter. Underneath it says flavored butter. Underneath that, in also kind of equally large font, it says contains no butter. All right.
Oh, wow.
And what I thought was, like, does that sum up our current culture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's artificial.
Artificial. And then it goes on to give the ingredients, and it's a bunch of artificial junk, corn syrup and so forth. Now, here's something I was thinking about. If we had some civilization that had gone off to colonize another planet, and they had no, access to dairy products, but they remember back home there was this thing called butter, and they wanted to make something that tasted like butter, that would make sense.
Would.
But we have butter.
Yeah. We have butter.
And the fake butter sits next to the real butter. Now, for years, of course, we were lied to and told that, real butter is bad for you. And, this artificial fake stuff is better. And, of course, we know it's not. And we're not here to talk about food necessarily. I just thought this is such an interesting commentary on our culture and the things that we'll put up with.
Yeah.
Or the things that we don't question. And, I mean, there are people who don't actually read food labels, which kind of blows my mind a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying I've never just stuck something in my mouth and thought, well, whatever, I'm going to eat this. We've all done that, but to live that way all the time, not know kind of what you're getting into, is a little troubling. But it makes me think of so many aspects of our culture, and we'll get into that. But do you have any initial thoughts here?
Oh, fake. Everything. I mean, if you want a chicken nugget, it's probably tofu, or some soy product. And they are substituting real food with fake, imitation foods that have flavoring that comes from like a bug butt, or something, similar to that. But artificial foods, artificial intelligence, artificial songwriting, artificial people, artificial everything. So artificial. What does artificial mean? Fake. And you look at, I thought I was doing the same thing the other day. I was like, oh, what's in this, fruit drink? Contains 1% fruit. I'm like, what are the other flavors and where are they coming from?
What's the substance of this?
What is the substance that I'm drinking here? So if you can't pronounce it, I'm coming up with a rule for myself. My own personal thing is, if I can't pronounce it and I don't know the ingredients, I try to stay away from it.
Right.
Some things you just can't, but I have an affinity for certain types of drinks, that are not really supposed to be that good for you, but once in a blue moon I'll have one.
Right.
And
yeah, you kind of have to choose your toxic load. You're not going to avoid everything, but you can avoid as much as possible. And that's a big thing with us, is not trying to push everyone and our listeners into a one-size-fits-all formula. No, you have to decide
everybody's got their own thing, their own way of doing it, and we just the artificial world. I mean, we're going into a place where they're doing neurological implants, which are great for people with medical problems and all that stuff. But where does the line? Where is the line?
Where's the line? And another thought to me is, and it kind of breaks my heart, because it's not the fault of a younger generation, but there is. And it can be any age, really. When you talk about generation, it could be any age. There are people that are so detached from the reality of how the world works. So I heard this funny story, and this isn't to like shame anyone for not understanding how things work, but somebody had posted this story, and she talked about going to a friend's house. Now, this friend must have lived either in like Southern California or Florida, somewhere warm enough to where she had a flourishing lemon tree in her yard. Okay. So she goes to her friend's house, and the friend had like a bag of lemons. And she's like, why do you buy lemons at the store when you've got lemons out on your tree out here? And the young woman, so innocent, she was like, you mean I can just pick those? Like, they don't have to do something to them? Like, I can just go pick them off my tree and use them?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sad and funny and all of the things. But
it is.
Well, I mean, that's a young generation. Let me tell you about the older generation. With the advent of and the onset of artificial intelligence and creating artificial salesmen who look like real people online, the older generation can be fooled very easily because they're not up on the latest. Most of the things online you just can't trust anymore because it's AI. I'm moving to that. If it's not a real person, and I think we need to create a culture that if it's not a real person online or in a commercial, if it's not real, I ain't buying that product.
Right. Well, and going back to
my small little boycott, I guess.
Yeah, and even going back to, I heard this the other day, and this episode isn't meant to be all about foods, but, someone did make a great point. Any kind of food that is advertised is probably something you don't need to eat.
Probably.
They don't advertise carrots. They don't advertise like real beef, real meat. Yeah. But if it's a
every once in a while you will get
processed,
from the beef industry.
Well, that's true.
Every once in a while, beef.
Yeah. But, I'm talking about, right. Oh, of course. There are those. All right. You touched on a few interesting things, and you mentioned music. And just in the last couple of weeks, if you guys are familiar, there's a guy named, I think his name is pronounced Rick Beato. He posts a lot about music. He'll interview musicians. He's a musician himself. And it's really interesting. And he's saying a lot of things that I already knew to a degree, but he's got the receipts. He's got like the names. And in other words, he's talking about how artificial pop music is, not necessarily because of AI, which that's another topic too. But he's talking about all the different pop singers. And if you dig down into who the songwriters are, there's like a handful of songwriters that are writing for everybody.
Yeah.
And so what will happen is you have this pop singer, and he's using an example of Sabrina Carpenter, and I don't even know much about her, but he's using her as an example. So she'll have a pop song that comes out, and there's these two people, I think Amy Allen is the name of one of them, and another guy, and they'll be billed as the songwriters as well as maybe the singer. But sometimes it's only because the singer made one little suggestion that said, oh, let's do it this way instead. Or the only way that these songwriters can get looked at by the pop singers, and it's not the pop singers, it's the managers of the pop singers, is if they agree to let the pop singer have their name on the songwriting credits, even if they don't write any.
Yeah.
And then you've got managers who are choosing what songs are going to be produced. They're choosing all the details of the music videos. It's all planned. And the point he was making in his video was that there are people out there online who will like analyze the song lyrics, and they'll say, what was Sabrina Carpenter thinking when she wrote this? And it's like she wasn't, because she didn't.
Right.
And so we had this whole artificial understanding of music artists.
And there's nothing wrong with, singing other people's songs.
Oh, absolutely. I was going to make that point. Absolutely.
But there is a problem when that person takes credit and doesn't,
right.
Right. And it ends up being, I like to call it the monkey grinder scenario.
Okay.
The monkey grinder is the guy that sits and plays the music, and the monkey bounces around and keeps the attention of the people,
the audience,
as they pour the money into the bucket. And so this monkey grinder kind of mentality,
organ grinder, right?
Was what did I say? Monkey grinder,
Yeah.
organ grinder,
but with the monkey.
Yeah, I mean, there may be places that do their meat and monkey grind and all that stuff and eat monkey, but anyway, the organ grinder. So that's what so the organ grinder complex or the scenario, it's just there's a formula to it.
Right.
There's an appeal to it. There is something there that says, hey, we'll do this part if you'll do this part, if you'll do that part, and then we can all make money.
Right. And that's what entertainment is. It's an industry. So, it is what it is. But as a person who's on the other end, the receiving end of the things that are put out in our culture, you need to understand where it's coming from and know that it maybe doesn't carry the authenticity that you think that it is. And I mean, for me, and I've heard you say this also, you don't like to be lied to.
No.
So we want to know kind of the background of how things, get developed. And that's just,
and you know what? If that's the process, that's fine. Just be honest about it. Don't, and I think that there are people that pass songs off as their own, that they have no experience in that song. Now, if somebody has experience and that song touches something inside of them and they sing it with heart because it means something, do it, man.
Yeah.
And I'm not against that at all.
Yeah.
But know the song and really get in the middle of the song. And if you can make it about you, I mean, not make it about you, but make it about you and other people around you. That's like
telling an authentic
expression of the song from your lens of your life, from the lens of your life.
Yeah.
And, we're going to get comments about what we say on here. We've been getting some
That's okay.
really fun comments from people.
I love it when it's fun, because I got slammed on a video we shared the other day where they, first of all, didn't even listen to it because they said once they heard me say when I was a child. So I was talking about something from the past. And if they'd listened to the whole thing, I also qualified it and said, this is just my opinion. And they immediately slammed me as, oh, I had to stop it immediately when I heard, and I hate the sound of your voice. And anyway, when were you a child? Was that like 1,000 years ago? And like slamming me for being old. And yeah, it's fun. But what was so interesting was this person took the time to write, and hats off to them because they actually even use proper sentence structure and grammar. So,
good job.
I mean, they really took some time to write this insulting diatribe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you're out there in the public, there's going to be insults. Of course, we also know that.
Well, I appreciate them being authentic. Maybe they're trying to be authentic.
Yeah.
And they really tell them what they think.
Yeah. And they also said that they felt violent when they heard my voice. So.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
Demons do that whenever they heard Jesus, too.
Right.
I'm just saying.
We pray for all those people out there, because everybody's on their search.
Absolutely.
And going that route and talking about what's out there on the internet, I was thinking about this. There's a lot of, there are a lot of fake friendships.
Artificial friendships. Yeah.
But that's not to say
they're friends because they want something.
Yeah. But I'm even thinking about, people might think of their Facebook friends as like their actual friends. And it's like, no, they're your Facebook friends. Now, they might be your actual friends, but you don't maybe have a real relationship with them.
We call those, in the old way, they were acquaintances.
Right. So you have
I guess your Facebook friends are acquaintances, except for the ones that aren't, of course.
Right.
But, you got acquaintances, you got close friends, and you have family.
Absolutely.
And, there's nothing wrong with that. You got close friends and close friends, and then friends that are like family, and then you have family. Right. And then the acquaintances, you're cordial, you're nice to them, and you like spending time with them. They're fun to be around sometimes, and, it's good to know people, and I enjoy that.
Yeah. But, I was thinking about, it's not, it's never all bad. So, for example, there are people who have become friends because they connected online, because they connected on social media. Yeah. And sometimes that can be a legitimate way that you meet someone and you make a connection that becomes an authentic connection. Yeah. And it made me think about a lady I used to work with many years ago. So I was about 18 and I got a summer job working in a hospital in the cardiac lab. And the lady who ran the lab had such an interesting story about how she met her husband. And it was through correspondence during World War II.
Oh,
so
cool.
These young women would write to the soldiers. They'd be assigned like a soldier and they would write to him. And so there was a guy that she wrote to regularly. And then when World War II was over, they actually met up and ended up getting engaged and getting married. And have been married for many, many, many years.
That's crazy.
So there are, some of these new ways of communication aren't all bad.
True. Well, I still have a little bit of thing on the artificial people.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm trying not to get on the soapbox.
Get on it.
I'm not going to get on it too far, but people that only come around when they want something, that gets on my nerves a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I've done it, though. And I realize that I've done it, maybe subconsciously, but I try not to do that because I don't want to go around people just because I want something.
Right.
I want to go around people because I want to foster that relationship with that person. But, if your children do it to their parents because parents are familiar.
Yeah.
And if you're a parent, you can get bitter if you try or if you're not watching it, the child will only come around when they need money or when they need something. But, we're happy to help, as parents. But, children, foster a relationship with your parents if you can.
Yeah, right.
It's a little bit of the responsibility on you, too. It's not just on the parents.
Right. Right, at a certain point.
At a certain point,
yes,
if your parents are overbearing, I get it, and you're older, and but still, you got one mom, you got one dad,
right?
And if you don't foster that, when they are on their deathbed, you're going to have a lot of regret.
Yeah, and
and that's not a guilt trip. That's just truth.
No, it is.
This is something we've lived through, and
you really don't appreciate things about your parents until later in life. More things come to light and you're like, oh wow, they did this really well. I should have been more appreciative of this or that.
Yes.
Or I could have learned something from them. Even if maybe there were other aspects where maybe they didn't do things so well. There were things that they did well. And so you always need to remember that. And the other thing on this conversation is when you think about the law of sowing and reaping.
Yeah.
You know, and if you will foster the relationships that God has ordained in your life, then the other ones that you also enjoy will be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe that. You don't want to go into any kind of relationship being opportunistic, meaning like, I'm going to hang out with you. But if I have a better offer to come along, then I'm going to go hang out with this person.
Yeah. You see that in movies all the time. And that person never ends up well.
Yeah.
You know, I'm good with you until something better comes along.
Yeah.
You know, that mentality is not good.
We've all been there, probably been that person who was like, hey, I think they're only hanging out with me because they don't have something better to do right now. You know, and that's not very genuine.
It's not cool. It's fake.
It's not cool.
It's very, very fake.
And that's what we're talking about.
And that's what we're talking about, is being fake. But, you know, going back to the parents, you know, it says that, the Big Ten, the 10 Commandments, honor your mother and father so that your days may be many.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, we joke around about that, but the truth is your life is blessed when you bless your mom and dad.
Yeah, that's true.
And those that came before you.
Right.
Honor your elders.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, and that we have gotten away from that in society.
I know.
And it's scary because there is no honor.
Yeah.
I say no.
Yeah.
You're seeing it's few and far between, and you don't see it as much honoring the elder.
Right.
You know,
and even back and I hate to always refer back to back in the day, but we did grow up in a time when even if we were kind of even if you were the rude person or the class clown, there was still a certain level that you didn't cross.
Reverence.
You just didn't. Even if you were like the kind of kid that was sneaking around doing things your parents didn't want you to do, you weren't rude to their face like you see now.
Right. The rudeness to the face.
Yeah.
If we had done that, we would have lost teeth. I would have anyway.
Right.
I would have been smacked upside the head, and then I actually have. You know, I got. You know, I deserved it. I did not. I'm not, you know, saying that they did wrong. I'm saying I deserved what I got because I was a smart aleck.
Yeah.
And, you know, getting disciplined when you get older, my grandmother used to say, when they're too big for the switch or the fly swat, it's time to get the broom handle and the ball bat.
Well.
And I was like, yeah, we don't want to go there. We're good.
Right.
We're good.
Right. So you respected the ball bat that resided in the corner.
Yep.
You didn't want that to come out of the corner.
Not towards me, no.
Right. And that was a healthy fear of authority. Now, I'm not saying that, you know.
Don't beat your kids. But the Bible says beat your kids. It'll save the soul from hell.
Right. And, of course, we understand that to mean a reasonable level of discipline.
Yes.
Mixed with love.
Yes. Yes.
But if you can't have just one, you know, you can't have just the harsh discipline and no love, and you can't just have all love and no discipline. I mean, you're going to have a disaster on your hands.
Absolutely.
Either way.
If you don't correct them, the courts will.
That's true. That's true. Or will they? I mean, well, yeah. See, that's the insanity of our culture.
Or life.
Life will eventually catch up to the undisciplined person.
It will.
Oh,
and it hurts.
Snap.
It hurts.
Yeah. So, you know, it's best to discipline ourselves. You know,
and for us, it's better to learn from others' mistakes and not do it ourselves.
Right.
You know, we got it's time that we get past all the fake, you know, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
That is fake parenting.
Yeah.
He's just throwing a fit. He's going to be fine. He's okay. Don't tell me why you're angry.
He just needs to
express
himself. Throwing all the food items across the grocery store. Have you seen some of those videos?
And
I'm
screaming.
Sure. Yeah.
That is not.
No.
That is not the way you parent. You parent through love and discipline.
Right.
Period. You stick to those two things.
Yeah.
And you do them both within reason.
Yep.
You're good.
Yeah.
The key to parenting.
Doesn't mean you're not going to have problems. I mean, that's the thing about it. There's no formula. It's why we need God. It's why we need Jesus. It's why we need the Holy Spirit and His wisdom every day. But there are certain foundational things, just like you said. It's got to be this mixture.
You got to start somewhere.
Discipline and love.
And, you know, this generation coming up is seeing a lot of the failures of Gen X
Mm-hmm.
in parenting. Gen X was
Mm-hmm.
left, to run rampant.
Yeah.
And then we became overly protective.
Mm-hmm.
And then the millennials were overly sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And then their kids, the Gen
Right.
Z, they're kind of like, screw the whole world. I'm going to do whatever I want to do
Yeah.
and be whatever I
Yeah.
want to be and all of the
And not
stuff.
that
And I don't have boundaries.
Right. Right.
And now this new was it Gen Alpha that's coming up? Gen Alpha is like, I want to go back to a little bit of a Gen X kind of thing. So we're kind of like
Yeah.
full circle a little bit, which
Right.
we should learn from every
Right.
generation.
And not that we ever want to overgeneralize. There are always
No,
exceptions, but there are
absolutely.
trends. I mean, they're very evident.
Very much so.
Yeah. So you're right. And I do think there's this a pendulum swing back to maybe a little more common sense. And I think
so.
that hunger for that which is authentic.
Real.
Oh, I've been seeing these videos of like young kids, early teenagers playing like music, like just garage band music,
Great.
And so some people are
This
like,
is awesome.
oh, our culture is healing
Yeah.
because we're getting back to something real. And
Right.
and I think there is a hunger for that.
Yeah.
For that which is real.
Forget the fake. Get back to being real. Get real.
For real.
For real, though. All right.
All right. I think that sums it up, guys. We appreciate you so much. And if you would like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See you guys.
Don't forget to like this video and please subscribe to our channel. Drop your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you prefer audio podcasts, please follow us on your favorite streaming platform.